Tonight on CFTK-TV News, a report looking at northern BC's housing affordability last year was released. There's new video of a hostage taking during the Hamas Music Festival attack in 2023, and the death of a man during an Ironman competition is being looked into.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cal Maslin, and here's what's making the news in the Northwest and beyond. A fire that spread through the Gitsag community of Gitwangak Monday is reported to have destroyed several homes and sent 2 to the hospital. Community members took to Facebook to post images of the blaze and thank the efforts of the Gitwangak, Gitsagukla, and Gitnyao fire departments. BC Ambulance and RCMP were also reported to be on site. We'll have more on this story as it develops. In a report that was created by the BC Northern Real Estate Board, it was indicated that across most of northern BC, housing affordability actually improved a bit last year. For reference, in Canada, housing is considered as affordable by the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation if it costs less than 30% of a property before income tax. In terms of the region as a whole, northern BC's affordability was determined to have averaged out at 32.9% in 2023, a number that was just a bit down from 2022. Kitimat was said to be the most affordable community in the region last year at 22.8%, and their average house price was below $400,000. However, the average house price for Terrace and Smithers were not as lucky, as they were both ultimately listed at over $500,000. The Haida Nation stated that a new deal transferring ownership and jurisdiction over Haida Gwaii to Aboriginal title is a monumental feat. BC and the Council of the Haida Nation recently signed the land agreements that officially switched title from the Crown, and legislation recognizing the move was introduced in the legislature earlier this week. The provincial government said it's the first deal of its kind in Canada, while President of the Haida, Jason Alsop, mentioned that the agreement builds on the work of past BC leaders and the First Nation. Premier David Eby went on to say that the transfer was about 20 years in the making. A breakout Canadian actress has been in the Northwest this week visiting local schools to share her story. CFTK-TV's Jaylene Matthews has more.
Some lucky local students have been in for a treat as actress Alyssa Waponatok visited schools in the Northwest this week as part of her Story Medicine tour. She says the tour was set in motion years ago when her mentor, Philip Granger, asked her what she wanted to do.
And I just told him, I want to make, I want to make other Indigenous kids like me feel like they can do anything.
Hailing from Big Stone Cree First Nation in Treaty 8 territory, Waponatok has risen to stardom through her roles as Tiger Lily in the new Disney Peter Pan and Wendy film, her portrayal of Perseverance in Bones of Crows, and playing Lizzo on the CW's Riverdale. Waponatok says she's been getting great response from the local teachers on this speaking tour.
They have conversations with them afterward, and it seems like a lot of the same message with these youth is that they're going through the same exact stuff that I went through. And me being vulnerable about that and sharing my story, they feel like they're not alone, and they feel like, well, she did this thing, maybe I could also do something too, even if they don't know what that is yet. It gives them hope, a little bit of hope, and makes them feel like they could do it.
For the full interview with Alyssa, tune in to Open Connection with Robert Pictou. For CFTK TV News in Terrace, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
Coming up next, to Nonprofit Society is scrambling after the threat of a funding pull from Surrey. Welcome back. Prince Rupert Mayor Herb Pond said in a recent interview that the city was able to tap into federal funds for their new water pipes project through a disaster mitigation fund. Jaylene Matthews now with more.
The $77 million federal investment into Prince Rupert's water systems may seem like a chunk of money from the federal government when there are many communities in Canada that don't have clean drinking water. However, Prince Rupert Mayor Herb Pond says the money came from a disaster mitigation and adaptation fund.
So the program we applied for wasn't specifically about water. It was about climate adaptation mitigation. And we were able to build a pretty strong case that because of the state of the pipes and the risk that they pose, we've seen significantly more freeze-thaw events. We've seen significantly more drying events. That old pipe is basically happy to become, in many places, a very thin membrane, but it's fairly happy as long as all the pressures around it remain constant. It's changing pressures that have caused these blowouts, right? And so as the climate has changed, we're seeing impacts around the soil that are driving these emergency blowouts.
Mayor Pond says last year's unusually dry summer caused a lot of issues.
Last summer was particularly dry, unusually dry for Prince Rupert. That affected the soil, right? The winter we had where we had all those, I think we had 14 major blowouts, just bang, 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 bang. We had an unusual amount of freeze-thaw. And we can handle freeze and we can handle thaw, but we can't handle freeze-thaw, 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 right? And so we were able to effectively make the case that that the pipes needed to be replaced under that program. And while I have great sympathy for any other community that's also facing challenges around water, and I'll definitely lobby with them and for them, we were able to find a sweet spot for our case.
The investment makes a dent in the project's estimated $200 million price tag. Mayor Pond says construction won't affect this year's Seafest celebrations. For CFTK-TV News in Prince Rupert, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
The Prince Rupert RCMP recently put out a statement about an ongoing investigation of theirs of an incident that happened a couple of days ago. The incident in question saw a blue Toyota Tacoma driven by a 53-year-old man from Port Edward plunge into the ocean close to the Galloway Rapids Bridge during the afternoon of April 23rd. First responders like the PR Fire and Rescue and RCMP tried to rescue the driver, but they were unfortunately unsuccessful, and the man passed away in the crash. But with assistance from Rupert/Jay's Towing, as well as a private diving company, the vehicle was able to be recovered from the water, and the Prince Rupert RCMP have since asked anyone who may know more about this case to contact them at 250-624-2136. There's new video of a hostage captured during the Hamas attack on a music festival in Israel on October 7th. 23-year-old Hirsch Goldberg Poland is being held in Gaza, and this video is the first proof since he was captured that he is still alive. NBC's Raf Sanchez reports from Tel Aviv.
Shalom.
Tonight, this undated Hamas video giving a first glimpse of American-Israeli hostage Hirsch Goldberg Poland in captivity. The fact he survived October 7th is almost miraculous. This video shows him being kidnapped from the Supernova Music Festival, his left arm badly damaged by a grenade. Today's video shows the 23-year-old's hand is gone, but he appears otherwise uninjured. He's one of 5 Americans believed to be alive in Hamas captivity. Mom, Dad, Libby, and Orly, I love you so much and miss you so much, and I think of you every day that I'm here, he says. His parents, Rachel and John, tonight calling on Israel and Hamas to reach a ceasefire agreement.
We're relieved to see him alive, but we are also concerned about his health and well-being.
We heard your voice today for the first time in 201 days, and if you can hear us, I am telling you, we are telling you, we love you, stay strong, survive.
One line that we say every single day in our house, and someone gave it to us in a sticker because we say it so much: hope is mandatory.
Raf Sanchez, NBC News, Tel Aviv.
A nonprofit society that operates a volunteer crime prevention program in Surrey has lost its funding. The city had threatened to pull its financial support if it didn't align itself with the Surrey RCMP. And now council has followed through, leaving the organization scrambling to figure out what to do next. CTV's Mark McMahon has more.
I would plead with the City Council and the Mayor to reconsider and to reinstate our grant.
When the Surrey Crime Prevention Society is in your neighborhood, you might slow down. Perhaps that graffiti down the street suddenly won't be there the next time you pass it. But Surrey City Council's move this week to suspend $330,000 in funding is putting much of that work at risk.
It comes as a shock to all of us, as we had anticipated that we would receive it as we have in the past. It's going to mean changing our programs up to accommodate our new budgets.
They work very hard in terms of public safety, and many of these young people seek careers in law enforcement, and these opportunities now will be gone if Surrey crime prevention can't sustain itself.
For 18-year-old Arjun Gill, an aspiring police officer, he wants council to know what he and other volunteers actually do.
2 a.m. in the morning, and we look around for stolen vehicles. I think this year we found 2 stolen vehicles. We almost helped someone from an OD. We've called in fires, and we've called in lots of impaired drivers.
As for the reasoning for the suspension, City Council had previously threatened to pull the plug if the society didn't exclusively work with the RCMP and not with the new Surrey Police Service.
If politics is what's leading this decision, unfortunately the casualty are the youth, and that's not fair to them.
The society aims to continue its work, but with half its annual funding now pulled, it faces tough decisions on how it will reduce its operations. Martin McMahon, CTV News, Surrey.
Turning to tonight's weather, the north coast is likely to see a few clouds plus a low at 5 degrees. The Terrace-Kitimat area will probably have a few clouds as well and a low at 5 degrees as well. And the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District should also get a few clouds too, but have a lower low at -5 degrees. On the north coast, their next week or so will deal with one sunny day and then a bunch of rain after that, while the high bounces from 8 to 11 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, the week for them will have a mixed sun and cloud at the beginning before transitioning to rain days and the high shifting from 8 to 12 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes districts, the upcoming week will also get a sunny day to begin, but will instead go back and forth between clouds, rain, and sun, with their high moving from 15 to 10 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is utility work, bridge maintenance, road sweeping, construction work, and paving operations, plus the Usk Ferry is out of service and the cable car is in effect. Highway 37 has some frost heaves, 37A has maintenance, and the Telegraph Creek Road has muddy sections and frost heaves as well. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come is a look at how profitable the spending during the Canucks home playoff games is. Welcome back. The 2 Canucks home playoff games so far have brought thousands of fans to downtown Vancouver, but one sports economist is cautioning the financial impact is not as great as it seems. As CTV's Penny Daflos reports, people only have so much spending money no matter how excited they are about the postseason.
When the drinks are flowing and spirits are high, it sure looks like playoff season is profitable.
An absolutely huge impact.
For bars and restaurants near the arena like the Shark Club, that is very true.
It's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the servers are very happy about that as well.
But when you look at the big picture,
it's not nearly as rosy as people might think.
This sports economist points out for all the jerseys purchased and nights out enjoyed with plenty of food and drink, the average person has to scale back somewhere else.
If you start going out into the malls and you start going out to the local sushi restaurants and ask them, how are you doing? They're going to say, wait a second, we noticed that there's a decrease in economic activity here.
In a city as expensive as Vancouver with a housing crisis that's lasted for years, ticket prices have reflected that.
Prices fluctuate.
Ticket sellers see fans taking a wait-and-see approach on how deep they're willing to dig into their wallets.
So it's about what you're comfortable with paying and go to the game.
And while out-of-town visitors appear to have flocked to the city for the first 2 home games,
they have customers from Kelowna, from Whistler, they're coming to see the Canucks play. So it does help the business a lot.
others are going to avoid paying playoff prices at hotels and opt to come another time or go somewhere else altogether. Add to that workers picking up extra shifts at concessions or bars who may pass up Uber shifts or other side hustles as a result.
Enjoy the run and realize that for every group that you find that are saying this is fantastic, you are going to find a group that says this stinks.
With a Game 2 loss, the Canucks are guaranteed at least one more home game. So enjoy the excitement, but remember only a few businesses and workers are likely to benefit from the playoff buzz. Penny Dufflot, CTV News, Vancouver.
The widow of a Quebec man who died in Texas during an Ironman competition is demanding answers. While she waits for months for autopsy results, she hired a lawyer to find out why her husband died and to determine if it was at all preventable. CTV's Denise Roberts reports.
Jean-François Alain loved to compete. He and his wife discovered running together 13 years ago. But Véronique Tremblay says he always took it one step further.
He set himself a goal of doing a full Ironman for his 50th birthday.
To prepare, he went with a friend to Texas to compete in the Galveston Half Ironman. During the first leg of the triathlon, the swim, something went wrong, and Alain was rushed to hospital. By the time Tremblay flew down to be with him, he was no longer conscious.
So it was very difficult, but we had the chance to say him goodbye. But my sons didn't because they were in Montreal.
Weeks later, Tremblay is still dealing with the loss and trying to piece together what happened. Tremblay has hired a lawyer in Texas to help in the investigation, including looking into how the rescue was handled.
They all saw that he raised his hand to require help.
Event organizers did not respond to CTV's request for an interview. While deaths are rare at Ironman events, they do happen, and the vast majority are during the swim portion. Dr. Richard Moon from Duke University has spent years trying to understand why.
There may be another explanation which I was interested in exploring, which was immersion pulmonary edema or swimming-induced pulmonary edema. And this is a condition where the lungs fill up with fluid from inside the body.
His research is being used to find ways to predict who may be susceptible to this condition. Meanwhile, Tremblay is working on a celebration of her husband's life.
The last moments with him, I've asked him for him to give me his strength to continue the way he was driving the family.
A family that's now forever changed. Denise Roberts, CTV News.
An Ontario senior says that he lost $25,000 because of a scam. As CTV's Pat Ford explains, he was conned by criminals pretending to represent Best Buy.
This is Best Buy and Geek Squad, and I did the phone call.
Charles Gibbs of Georgetown recently bought a printer at Best Buy and had trouble setting it up, so he decided to call Geek Squad. He Googled them and called the first number that popped up online. He was surprised when they said there was a refund waiting in his account.
He said to me, "Oh, you get $349.94 refund." And I thought to myself, well, that's kind of odd, but I call Geek Squad.
Gibbs was told they needed his banking information to process the refund. Then they said they made a mistake and accidentally gave him $10,000 he needed to give back.
He said, "You're going to have to go to the bank and pay this money back. You're going to have to do it today or we're going to be charging you with fraud."
Through a series of transactions that also caused him to use Bitcoin machines, Gibbs was scammed out of a total of $25,000.
As I keep saying to you, I called Best Buy, Geek Squad's good companies, and I called them. They didn't call me.
In a letter to Gibbs, Best Buy said, "We are constantly working with law enforcement to counter these attempts at fraud. Those who perpetrate these frauds are from outside of our organization."
It's fairly sophisticated these days. They take you to a fake website, you call the number, they convince you that they're that organization.
Technology experts say don't just Google, always go to official websites. Beware offers of rewards or refunds. Don't hand out your personal information, banking or credit card numbers, and use antivirus software.
My recommendation is to always be suspicious, right? Because the scammers are out there and they're designed to trick you.
Gibbs says he's 83 years old and that once he was caught up in the scam, it was hard to think clearly. He wanted to warn others what happened to him.
You got to be careful going on a website because it could be a scam number.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
And now we turn our attention to the stock markets. The Canadian dollar is up 11.10 The price of gold is up $4.10. The oil is up 76 cents. Natural gas is down 1 cent. Aluminum is up $24. In Toronto, the TSX is up 11.66 points. The Venture Index is up 3.68. In New York, the Dow Jones is down 375.12, and NASDAQ is down 100.99. Still ahead is a report on the Canucks ahead of Game 3 of their first-round series. Welcome back. After losing Game 2 to the Nashville Predators, the Canucks have since touched down in Tennessee. The news about their all-star goalie Thatcher Demko isn't good. He may not play for the rest of the series. In this week's Ringside Report, CTV's Ben Milcher breaks down the Game 2 loss and looks ahead to Game 3.
Let's go Casey is the chant, I believe. As that one bounces in and the chant didn't work.
The Nashville Predators scored on their first shot. It's hard to blame Canucks backup goalie Casey DeSmith, but it was not the start he wanted after getting the call in place of injured Thatcher Demko. Star forward Elias Pettersson struggled, and after missing this wide-open net with a chance to tie the game, was visibly frustrated. In the second, with the Predators up 2-0, a Pettersson turnover led to this.
Turns the puck over, here's a shot, stop, rebound, they score!
I mean, I'm always my biggest critic, and I take a lot of blame for this one. So, yeah.
Head coach Rick Tocchet expects him to bounce back before the next game.
In reference to Pete, he's a young kid. You know, this is his first kind of taste of pressure playoff thing, and you know, this is good for him. He's got to learn that you know, he's got to dust himself off and be ready for Game 3.
While Pettersson's struggles are cause for concern, the Canucks' chances in this series could hinge on goaltending. With no timeline for a Demko return, the pressure is on DeSmith.
I think the Canucks have enough faith and confidence in Casey DeSmith that he doesn't have to be spectacular. Rick Tocchet said, you know, we don't need him to be Superman. We just need him to be Casey. And by saying that, he's saying he just needs him to perform at the level that he did for much of this season.
The Canucks will also need more production from their top scorers if they hope to win in Nashville.
It's go time, though, for the Canucks' best players to announce their arrival in this series because they really haven't to this point.
Nashville made the most of their opportunities and have stolen home ice advantage going into Game 3. Ben Milcher, CTV News, Vancouver.
That is all of our news for now. From everyone here at CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.